What is up, everybody? It's Joe from JLW Games coming at you with another cool video. Today we're back in Planet Coaster with the Extreme Spinning Coaster Project, the mini series. If you haven't watched episode 1, I highly recommend you go watch it first to see how we built the layout and everything. So today we're going to be focusing mostly on the load station for the ride and also the transfer track and the storage building as well. That's what we're going to get into today for this episode. So it's a little bit longer than the last episode, at least the footage wise. I did speed it up a little bit more than the first episode. That way it's not super long. So my idea with this load station is that off to the right here, we're going to have the transfer track into the storage building. That way it's all just one big building rather than having a separate building for the storage shed, and then that way they can access the storage shed just from the load station, and it makes everything nice and tidy and nice in that regard. So as for the blueprint, this will all be inside the blueprint as well, so that way you guys can just plop this on down in your parks and you'll have a nice it will have the nice transfer track and everything like that. Now that being said, I didn't get every single thing done with this station in this episode. I got most of it done though. We got the basic layout, everything here. So I'm gonna have two platforms here for the storage shed, and so there are going to be running 3 trains, but that's okay because we are just going to have 2 trains that can be stored. Time Traveler does this at Silver Dollar City. There's only actually 2 bays, even though they run 3 trains. There's always a train on the dock or in the station at all times. So there's always a train on the tracks. And if they have to do any maintenance on that, they're just going to have to swap trains. And that's actually how it works. And I think SDC did this so they would be able to save a little money, and they didn't have to worry about a third bay. You know, they were already spending $26 million on the ride, so they probably wanted to save a little bit of money on that. So, anyways. That's looking good, and then of course we get into the transfer track. I just wanted to do something fairly simple for the transfer track and just have these 2 large beams, and since we're on flat land and everything's going to be simple for this transfer, so nothing too fancy here, and we're just going to have these guys just literally like so, and I thought that turned out quite nicely actually for what it was. I was going to do some horizontal pieces, but I was like, I don't think we actually need that, and I think it's actually fine the way it is sitting right now. So I wanted to make sure that I had the roofing was one thing I was going to try and figure out, and I was debating whether to do my own custom roof or just some in-game roofs, and I actually ended up going with my own custom roof for this. So I used this as a base and actually used the wooden plank pieces, the thick wooden plank pieces, to kind of make it look like a bit of a metal kind of pitched roof, you know, if that makes sense. So pretty much it's pretty easy to make your own custom roofs. They're a lot easier than you think, and you should actually probably look into it more often. I was looking at using arch shapes at first, but then I decided to settle on this, that way so you could see the gaps in between the pieces and everything. So the best way to do a custom roof is pretty much to, you know, find what texture that you really want to go with, and then just cover an existing piece, and then just select it all, and you have your own custom roof, and you can just copy and paste it to wherever you want. So it's actually quite easy and simple, so I really like it, because then, like, again, once you get it the way you need to, it's very easy to just copy and paste it onto the grid and use it on the grid-based system. And as you can see, it looks like a nice modern metal roof is kind of what I was going for, and it turned out quite nicely. So this is very heavily inspired by Time Traveler Station quite a bit. They have the 2 pitched sides, and then it's going to have like its own kind of topper piece at the top as well. Is kind of how this was going to go turn out. So again, lots of inspirations, of course, from Time Traveler, since it is the only currently operating extreme spinning coaster out there. So it's going to be a lot based off of that. which I suppose actually technically makes a lot of sense, being, you know, and since the layout is very similar, I haven't really thought of a name just yet for this ride. And of course, if you plop it down into your park, you're going to be able to probably theme it or name it whatever you want. I'm not really going to give it a very specific theme. That way it can fit into like most parks. So we're just going to keep it the way it is, and just kind of have like a generic station with a generic kind of theming to it, and everything like that. And I want to make it pretty easy to be able to change the color scheme and everything. That way, if you are importing it into your parks and you want to go with a different color scheme, I want to make it fairly simple for you guys. That's going to be the goal here, is to make everything kind of simplistic and work very, very well. So hopefully I accomplished that. So going into the next episode, we'll probably get into a lot of the lighting and of course some custom supports. The custom supports I don't think will be too bad, or won't be too hard, because I'm not going to be doing custom supporting the entire thing. I'm only going to be custom supporting the spots I think that need to be custom supported, because there's a lot of parts of the ride. It stays pretty low to the ground, so the in-game supports actually work fairly well, so I'm probably going to keep most of those supports in there for the most part. So that will be quite nice. So in here, I just wanted to create some nice little windows that are actually functional windows. I actually ended up putting some glass and everything like that as well. So I'm also going to be doing some queues and exits to make it simple for the person that's also going to be using the blueprint. That way, all you got to do is follow the path on where the path goes. It will be pretty straightforward on where you're supposed to place the path down. And I'll also do a test when I do save it excuse me, as a blueprint. Oh my gosh, my throat almost died there. When I do save it as a blueprint, I'm going to make it very simplistic. I'm going to definitely be like testing it out and everything. So I had to do some interesting stuff to get the exit back over to where I needed it to go. So but yeah, a lot of very simple. The station actually was not very difficult. It was very easy and simplistic, I felt. So that was definitely a positive in this build. And yeah, so it's looking pretty nice, and it's a pretty large building too, which I think fits for what it is. So yeah, I had to get entrance and exit starting going over here. And basically what I needed to do was to get like a skeleton on the inside, because the inside obviously doesn't look great yet. And I wanted to make sure, I probably should have done this first and looking back at it, but it's alright. We still got it to work. So basically I wanted to make that little skeleton roof bracket that you're going to see on the inside. That you see most commonly. Like you'll see the kind of the structure. This kind of keeps it nice, structurally sound, and everything. So it looks quite nice, and it turned out really good. So I just wanted to have like a wooden bracket that went through while on the inside, because again, I had to work on some interior of the station too. I would say one of my strong suits in Planet Coaster is definitely making station buildings. I feel like those are my best kind of creations, or station buildings for coasters overall. And I think they look pretty good. So, and I typically don't need many references to create a solid station building, which I'm pretty proud of. So anyways, I had a little bit of trial and error of trying to figure out what I was going to do for this particular bracket and everything, because usually you have these little diagonal pieces that also kind of serve a little bit of purpose to give it a little more structure to it. I'm also going to be adding some metal supports as well throughout the inside. I hadn't gotten them imported just yet in this build, but we're going to get them in there eventually. So yeah, so it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the final product. Of course, we're going to get an operator's booth in there. That's another thing I see a lot of people just kind of neglect, is actually put in a little operator's booth for your operators, you know, instead of just having that little panel. There are a lot of coasters that don't really have booths, and they just kind of have their panel only. But I like to have little booths in mine. I just think it looks a lot better, and just visually, and you know, it gives your operator a little bit more space to work with while they're in there. So And basically for this top piece, I just wanted to cover it up, so I just decided to do a little piece to make it look like the metal is just coming across up here. And it looked pretty good. So a few things I still need to do is do some lighting inside the building. I haven't decided fully what I want to do with that. I've been trying to debate whether I'm going to be avoiding Theme Maker's Toolkit or just embrace it a little bit. So far, I haven't put any Theme Maker's Toolkit in this build, but I know it would make it look a lot better. So for you guys that are looking at maybe getting this blueprint, I would love to hear from you guys, your feedback. Would you prefer me not to use any Theme Maker's Toolkit? I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, because literally once you put it in, all you got to do is subscribe to the pieces pretty quick, and I probably won't have too many pieces. I'll probably just have a couple, so it won't be too insane. So I'll keep it limited, like to just a few pieces, but I don't know. I just think you can add so much detail using the Theme Maker's Toolkit, and it's free for everyone. You know, I think I might throw in a few pieces, but definitely let me know down below in the comments what your guys' opinion is on using Theme Maker's Toolkit in blueprints. I personally think it's not a big deal. I don't mind downloading a couple of pieces to make it look the best it can possibly be. So when it was all said and done, I think I had about 1,700 pieces so far in the build, which is definitely good, because I think the limit is 4,000 for the blueprints. So I need to make sure that I keep it under 4,000, and I think I'm in a good shape so far, because I think, like I said, I'm going to be using minimal support structures, and then I'm going to be using maybe some Theme Maker's Toolkit items for that, and then I'm probably going to do a perimeter fence and maybe a little bit of foliage and such inside as well. So that's basically going to be the idea for that. So basically what I was doing here is just trying to cover up those overlapping textures with some different stuff. So for this, I was thinking about I just decided to do this little sign here that said launch area, since it's right next to the launch, and I figured it would fit quite nicely. So we're just going to put a sign that said launch area and dip it back in there to make it look like it's just been painted onto that section. And I thought it added a nice little bit of character to the building overall, and I'm pretty happy with it. So looking quite nice. And then for the windows, I just did some outlines, so they looked a little bit better just with some white accents. And of course, we're going to get some glass in there as well. That way, it's just a nice custom window that is actually really see-through, which looks really, really nice. So I was liking those, and I thought they turned out quite well. Get one for the operator, of course, so the operator can kind of see outside the building just a little bit, give them a little some views. And I might actually put in some. Probably put in a few in the booth. I'll probably put in some TVs to make it look like they have some cameras out there, so they can see some of what's going on out there. I'll probably just have the TVs there and with nothing on it, and then I don't know, make it optional if you want to download the TV screens and stuff, I suppose. But looking quite nice. So one of my issues that I kind of ran into that we'll see here pretty soon is the exit, and that's kind of I was hoping would work out, and it ended up working out. So basically there's not a whole lot of room for the exit ramp here when you get off the ride. So the booth actually extends so far over, and this is me literally trying to look left and right, trying to figure out where I'm going to put this exit. And you can see it's going to be a small opening. Well, you know that the smallest pathway, even at the smallest width, is going to overdo that. And I still think it's not unrealistic to have a smaller exit way. So my idea here was to put in a couple curbs, just throw in some curbs there. That way the guests actually do not go through the wall and walk through it, and it actually worked, which was very pleasant. I was pleasantly surprised that the curbs actually worked very well there. So the guests still will clip through it a little bit at some points, but I think it works out really well. So when you are using this blueprint, just have the exit go out that little opening, and the curbs are already going to be placed in there, so you don't have to worry about that. All you got to worry about is placing down your pathway that's going to be coming across here and coming out that little opening. So hopefully it doesn't confuse too many people when they're building, like, oh, that's not going to work. You know, yes, it will actually work. I might throw in a little couple signs for some instructions, maybe, to kind of help the player out a little bit. So actually I did use a Theme Maker's Toolkit item. I just realized I did use a chain that went across here, and I think it was worth it. So I wanted to make sure there's a little chain there, that way no one can just walk into the op booth and do whatever they want, you know. So yeah, so that turned out pretty good. I always urge using the grid tool when you're doing the pathing here and using the square edges. I think it looks a lot better. Some people probably won't, but that's all right. It's going to be designed to use the square edges. So if people want it to look the greatest, definitely use the square edges and use the end game fencing. It actually turned out really nice. I actually did not use custom fencing for the exit, and I'm actually not going to, because I think it turned out really good. Because if you put your own fences or use the in-game fences, it actually looks quite nice. And I actually made these little concrete supports actually slightly higher up than the curbs on the pathways, and with the fencing added on, it actually looks very unique and looks really good. So I'm actually fairly satisfied with that, so I'm pretty happy with it. And so yeah, it will be pretty straightforward on where the path's gonna go. I tried to avoid using steps or stairs on the exit ramp, because I want to make it to where if you have a disabled guest with a disability trying to enter the ride, they would have access by just going up the ramp, and there's no steps, and that way we avoid having to put in like a little elevator. I'm not a big fan of those elevators for guests having to use, so I usually do my best to do like these little ramps, and I think they work just a little bit better overall, because it's probably cheaper for the park just to use like elevated ramps instead of doing that. So anyways, looking into doing those in-game railings, it actually fits very well, so I'm pretty happy with that. And then I had to think up a way to do this queue line. So I wanted to get to the thicker path, and the only way to do that, you can't do it the corner there with square pieces, and I just wanted to have it thicker, that way it could support it a little bit easier. And then once you do that, I'm not going to do a whole dedicated queue for this. I'll leave that up to the player. So if they want to do a queue line, the only thing they're going to have is the steps right here. And I don't mind doing steps on the main queue, because it's a main queue, and you're not going to have anybody with wheelchairs going through here. So that's why I always make the exit more accessible for guests with disabilities, just to keep it on the realistic side and everything. So so yeah, this is going to be a nice little ramp for the queue line that will turn out quite nice. So and then whatever they want to do with the rest of the queue line is going to be up to the player. I don't really want to dedicate a full queue line for this blueprint. It's just mainly going to be the layout, the station, and that's mainly it. So since you can't save those in there. But that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe for more amazing content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next live streamer video. Have a great day and an even cooler tomorrow. Thanks and goodbye.